Hi, Joshua. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. So, I have to say before we begin, you're a bit of a legend in my family. Uh, to
In a good
make
way, I
a,
hope.
yeah, to make a long story short, my brother bicycled across Canada in the early 2000s. And so, when 1 week came out, I got him tickets to see that. He doesn't like movies, doesn't watch TV, doesn't care about actors one bit, but he loved 1 week. And then coincidentally, soon after, you guys were, I think, waiting for the same flight at the Vancouver airport. And then he said you guys got to talking about going across Canada and hidden gems across Canada. And he said you were the only one that really understood him about the trip. And so he's been
That's
talking about
awesome.
that ever since. And so thank you for being a mensch.
That's great.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Dr. Death, which comes out in Canada this Sunday. It's been out on Peacock, of course, since July. So I'm curious what kind of feedback you've gotten.
Um, I mean, from close friends, a lot of like, wow, you're really scary. um, and yeah, I mean, I think it caught a lot of people off guard because because he's just so awful.
Yeah.
And the feedback, it's I don't want to say it's been good because
All right.
he's not good, but I've had a lot of very positive response, I guess.
Interesting. So I found it interesting that you wrote that there's no federally defined patient rights in the States. So can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, so the as much as Christopher Duntsch is the central villain of the show,
Mm,
really what the broader story is, and the more important story ultimately, is the system inside of which he was able to work. And um, there is there is no patient bill of rights
yeah.
federally in the United States. And there is also a fundamental flaw inside of the American medical system because it is a for profit system.
Right.
It ultimately privileges profit above patient outcome. And that is a huge part of the story that we tell that you know in the instance where profitability and your care overlap, the American medical system can be fantastic and best in the world. But in
Mm,
the instance where your care is in opposition to the bottom line, you will suffer. And obviously, the story that we tell in Doctor Death is an outlier and an extravagant version of how bad it can be. But
right.
the system itself is fundamentally broken in regards to the outcomes for patients. And Patrick McManus really wanted to make sure that while we do not absolve in any way Dr. Duntsch from the things that he did
Mhm.
and the damage that he caused to his patients, that the broader system itself is also culpable and continues to have these sorts of negative outcomes, both financial and physical, for people who have to interface with the American medical system.
Mm. And so, what can people do about that?
Well, what Americans can do is vote. The only
Mm,
way it's like it's set up to seem like an insoluble, overly complex, can never be fixed problem. But really, that's a failure of imagination because
yeah.
growing up on this side of the border, we have a medical system that is not by any stretch perfect, but it certainly is a hell of a lot better than the American system.
Mm,
In far as so far as patient outcome is concerned and cost, right?
right.
The cost of medicine in Canada or medical care in Canada is far lower with better outcomes than it is in the States. So that's
Mhm.
perverse. And until Americans vote for people who are going to enshrine single payer universal care, the there's no there's no sort of nibbling fix, right? There's no little reform that can happen inside of the system that privileges profit. And
Right.
so until that happens, everything else is just working around the edges.
Mm. Now, I don't know if people know, but Dr. Death had an all female directing team. So, and you've worked with a lot of tremendous female creators, female filmmakers in your career recently: Maggie Kiley, So Young Kim, Liz Tigelaar, Ava DuVernay, just to name a few. So, what has working with them affected your work and your approach to your craft?
Well, each one of those women is very, very different. So, and much in the same way that I learn from, hopefully, from anybody that I'm working with.
Right.
Um, you take a dip. Oh, can you hold on for 1 second? That's my
Yes.
lunch. It's just arriving. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Man's got to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Man really does have to eat. So each one of them is informative in their own way. But in regards to this, what I didn't realize, and what was such a brilliant thing for Patrick to have done, because one of the things that's being examined by Dr. Death is the effects of what we now call toxic masculinity. It was a stroke of genius to have three female directors who have had to deal with toxic masculinity for the entirety of their lives, and also particularly in their work lives, and what the effect of that type of personality is on the people around them. And it didn't occur to me then, but watching the show, I thought, of course, who better to tell that story than three women who have had to navigate a predominantly male industry that has traditionally had a very hard glass ceiling for female directors. And I think it really added a tremendous layer to the show.
Yeah, I agree. And you've also had some tremendous scene partners and collaborators in your career.
Absolutely.
Everyone on Dr. Death, Ruth Wilson, Reese Witherspoon, everyone on When They See Us, Anna Torv. Again, I could go on and on. So what have been some of your favorite on-set memories or favorite like playful scene partners?
I mean, well, first off, I think I would be remiss if I didn't first point out and send my condolences to the family of Michael K. Williams, who just recently passed, who I had the opportunity to work with very briefly, and have been a fan of his for years and years and years and years, and I feel very thankful that I got to be in his presence a little bit. So I would center him first, and then just say, that one of the things that I've realized in my career is that the joy that I get out of what I do for a living is the opportunity to tell stories that I find interesting with interesting people. And so, I have had the benefit and have tried to find myself in the path of interesting people as often as I possibly can.
Well, thank you so much for the art that you bring into the world, Joshua. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you, and give your best to my brother.
I
Your brother.
will. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.